Welcome to Street Knowledge with Chris Graham.
Chris Graham, Scott German. We're going to talk some UVA baseball as the Who's get ready for their seventh elimination game of this 2021 NCAA tournament, first of the College World Series. UVA will play Texas tonight at 7 o'clock. And, man, we thought a couple of days ago, Scott, that we'd be playing a night later on Friday night in the winner's bracket. But Mississippi State, a big eighth inning, sending UVA into the loser's bracket. And, Scott, I think I'm finally over that now. It took a while. It took me maybe 36 hours, which is pretty much how long it's been since we started recording this podcast. But tough loss for UVA, but another chance today. And this is a team that's been playing with its backs against the wall really since April 1st. So maybe nothing new for this UVA team.
Well, they're 6-0 in the elimination game. So I guess you could say we got them right where we want them. I'd rather not have them right where we want them. But it's not like we haven't been there before. Little different circumstances, I think. Well, maybe not. I mean, I was going to say maybe the stakes are a little higher, but they were the same when we were facing elimination in the NCAA regional and then also in the super regional. So, yeah, and it all boils down to starting pitching, I think, especially in college baseball. So, yeah, I like our chances. Just win one game. I know it sounds cliche-ish, but, O'Connor is preaching this and the players certainly buy into this. Just one game. Just win tonight. That's all we have to focus on.
The guy starting tonight for Virginia, at least, and of course it's an elimination game, so it's all hands on deck. And Virginia's played a lot of baseball games with all hands on deck from a pitching perspective. But it's Mike Vassell. Mike Vassell showed up on grounds back in 2018. Big right-hander, 6'4" right-hander from the Boston, Massachusetts area. He was looked at as a guy that even then could have been perhaps a first or second round pick coming straight out of high school. He had some arm issues his senior year of high school, decides to come to UVA, and his career record at UVA 11-11, but he's still projected. I looked this up today, Scott. He's still projected as a second or third round pick, maybe early fourth round pick at the worst. Even with some rather unheralded credentials. This year he started out great. He was 7-3 at one point. His ERA was under 3. Lately, not been so good. In fact, he's been out of the rotation for a couple weeks now. But he started the first game that Virginia faced in an elimination game. Now, he didn't do too well in that one. That's the last start he had, the eventual 13-8 win over Jacksonville. And so, but I've got a breakdown of Vassell and looking at him more in depth. But this is a guy, and again, maybe we'll talk first about how, this is an all-hands-on-deck game. Everybody but Andrew Abbott, I assume, and also, of course, Griff McGarry, he's pitched I'm just going to say it's a podcast. He pitched his balls off the last two nights. He went out there. A guy that was on the scrap heap for UVA baseball. Maybe we can get the same thing out of Vassell. Maybe he can look at Griff McGarry and say, look what that guy did. I got to step up the same way that Griff McGarry did.
Yeah, and again, it is the seventh game of the World Series. So I'm sure the mentality is that for Vassell is to give us, 3 or 4 quality innings, and then if we have to, we go to the bullpen, pitching by committee type approach. So, this is going to be a completely different type of game as far as how O'Connor and the pitching coach Dickinson manage this game. So nothing is going to surprise me. I'm not even certain Abbott wouldn't be available for an inning if he had to be.
So looking at Mike Vassell, I'll give you the season numbers first. I mentioned he was at 7-3 at one point, under 3 ERA. His numbers as we stand right now: 7-5, 4.82 ERA, a 1.59 walks and hits the innings pitched, 3.11 opponent batting average. So those numbers have really worsened. Since April 24th, he's only gone more than 4 1/3 innings just once. He went 6 innings in a win over Boston College back in late May. Part of that stretch where UVA had to win games just to really solidify a chance at an NCAA berth. But over his last 18 1/3 innings, and that dates back to his start on May 1st. So he's pitched 18 1/3 since May 1st. That tells you one thing. That's not a lot of innings for a guy pitching for a team in the College World Series, a starting pitcher for a team in the College World Series. In his last 18 1/3 innings, 8.83 ERA, a 2.62 whip, 10 strikeouts in 18 innings for a strikeout pitcher, and 9 walks. And again, he's a guy that he's going to hear his name called. There's only 7 rounds of the draft next month. He's going to hear his name called relatively early. His fastball touches 95, sits 91, 93 most of the game. The scouts love his plus changeup. A little disappointment that he hasn't developed another secondary pitch, either a curveball or slider. But here's what I'll say, Scott, about a guy. This is maybe his last chance, and I'm not even saying if UVA loses the game or doesn't get to the championship series. He may be, if Virginia wins tonight, wins 2 more against Mississippi State. You get a chance in the championship series. He may be a Game 3 starter for you. Personally, I'd go with Matt Wyatt. If I would go Abbott, Wyatt, and McGarry. Maybe not in that order. Maybe Abbott, McGarry, Wyatt. Wyatt is my Game 3 if I got that far. This may be Vassell's last chance to perform in front of the scouts and say, "Look at me. I should be a high draft pick." I know there's lots of reasons to be motivated. That's another one to throw out there. This is a guy that came out of high school as a potential first-round pick, and he's not lived up to that yet. So here's a chance. Griff McGarry took the ball and ran with it. Griff McGarry was on the scrap heap. I said that earlier. He had pitched 2 innings in 45 days. He's had 3 very good starts in the NCAA tournament for UVA. His last one made him a lot of money. He might be a second-round pick now. I'm seeing some love for him on draft boards now. Second-round picks they sign a piece of paper with 6 zeros on the end of it. That guy 3 weeks ago was probably going to be coaching somewhere if he was lucky, a volunteer assistant coach. He's going to be making a lot of money next year. There's a chance for Mike Vassell to do the same thing.
Yeah. Concerning Vassell, one of the first games, if not the first game that I watched UVA play in person this year was a miserably cold day against Notre Dame in March. He pitched. They took him out early with a back injury. Some type of back injury, not quite certain what that was, but I'm wondering how much of an effect that has had on him since. And the fact that he's only thrown 1 inning in the last, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, maybe that's helping. Maybe that will help him get back into form a little bit. Have you read or heard anything about that injury, that back injury?
I've not. I will say though, to your point about the 1 inning in the last 2 weeks, I'm thinking of the story of Griff McGarry, and Brian O'Connor talking in one of his press conferences this week at the College World Series, specific to Griff McGarry. He made a point that when they took him out of the starting rotation, of course McGarry. So your weekend rotation at the start of the season. I mean, gosh, the embarrassment of riches here. You talk about. I mean, Nate Savino next year projected to be a first-round pick. You got McGarry coming out of high school looked at as a top, first, second, third-round pick. Vassell, same way. Abbott, same way. But your starting rotation start of the season was Abbott, Vassell, McGarry. McGarry started the April 1st game. April 1st is the line of demarcation for UVA baseball because Virginia lost that night, fell to 11-14 overall, 4-12 ACC. He lost his starting job. He did make one more start, McGarry did, April 20th, midweek game against VCU. Didn't get an out in that game. Walked 3, hit a batter, got lifted, faced 4 batters, didn't get a single out. After that, he threw twice in 45 days. 1 inning of relief actually he finished out the 9th inning of that combined no-hitter against Wake Forest. Low leverage situation to say the least. I think the score of that game was 17-0 when he came in the game. That is low leverage. That's right. Hey, just get out there and throw an inning. We don't care what happens. It's 17-0. You can't screw this up.
I was expecting a call.
And yeah, well, yeah.
Come in and pitch.
And then exactly. And then the next weekend, pretty much a similar situation. He closed out a 9-2 win over Boston College. 7-run lead, 9th inning. What are you going to do? So they brought him back slowly. Hey, we're not asking a lot of you. Just get a good inning in. Let's get some confidence built up, and then let's get you forward. And then they got him ready for when he needed to. They needed him to start that game against ODU, the first elimination game against ODU in the regional. He pitched 3 brilliant innings, and then the blister develops. He walks some guys, gets taken out, but we know it was the blister. He comes back out, Dallas Baptist, throws the game of his life. He even tops that against Mississippi State here this week. I'm wondering if something similar may be in the works with Vassell. Hey, they put him in. He threw an inning. He threw a clean inning in relief against Dallas Baptist. We didn't think of it much at the time, but I'm thinking back, Scott, 2015, when Nate Kirby was coming back from his injury. He was injured in April of that 2015 season. Didn't know if he'd ever pitch again in a Virginia uniform. They brought him back for a what I now look at as a rehab outing in the College World Series against Florida. And then when he kind of got roughed around a little bit, he got the last 5 outs of that College World Series and won a championship for Virginia. You just wonder, maybe Brian O'Connor knows what he's doing, to say the least. That quiet inning against Dallas Baptist may have been sort of a rehab assignment for Mike Vassell to get him ready for tonight.
Yeah. So, what would you say would have been Coach O'Connor's other option for starting tonight? Wyatt, maybe?
Wyatt would have been, and I, when I was thinking ahead, because O'Connor mentioned in his College World Series press conference, he would name a game 1 starter. And of course, we knew it was going to be Andrew Abbott, but he was going to name a game 1 starter. He wouldn't name a game 2, but he would have in the back of his mind who his game 2 would be. And then everyone else would be available. So Wyatt pitched in game 1. In fact, he closed out game 1. But he threw 3 innings in that game. That signaled to me maybe he'd be your starter in a game 3 if we played Friday. If Virginia wins that game Tuesday night, I bet Wyatt's your starter Friday night. So the fact that Virginia lost that game on Tuesday night meant that you had to go in a different direction. So yeah, I think at this stage it had to be him being Vassell at this stage. Vassell hadn't pitched in a while. And then maybe you go back if you don't have to use Wyatt tonight. And we can break that down. I should have broken that down. I wrote a column on the website. Maybe I should go back and add to it a little bit. What's your plan for tonight if you're doing things? But because at this stage, I guess there is no Friday night game. Obviously, if you don't win tonight, but you do have to think in some way about tomorrow night. No, I would have gone Wyatt for a Friday game if you'd won Tuesday night. But at this stage, who else do you go to? I mean, do you try Devin Ortiz again? Devin Ortiz pitched great for Virginia back on June 8th, the win over ODU in the clincher of the regional. You could do that. He obviously hasn't pitched since then, and he was masterful in that game. Brandon Neek, we haven't seen. I don't know if we've seen anything of Brandon Neek since his long outing in the win over ODU in the game on June 6th. I don't know if you start Brandon Neek. He's a guy that you have to hope can give you some innings tonight if you need them, and you probably will. So there's a couple of options, but when you start breaking it down, Scott, I think you're right. I mean, I think the point you were making is who else do you go to? It's probably Vassell.
Yeah, and if we're going to survive and move on, it's eventually you're going to have some with the bullpen. Maybe lack of depth in the bullpen. Now, I'm not sure availability of Neek or Bales, but with the bullpen maybe being depleted, possibly somewhat. If we're going to move on, we're going to have to get a contribution from Vassell or Savino. One night or sooner or later, one of those two kids are going to have to step up and pitch well. So it's his turn. He gets denied tonight.
Yeah, and you made the point there. I don't know that. See, Blake Bales, when O'Connor talked about him pre-College World Series, he said his injury, whatever it was, and wouldn't reveal the nature of the injury. That he only threw to two batters, I guess it was, in the regional. Got 1 out from him in the regional in the second South Carolina game back on June 6th. He said it wasn't a season-ending injury, just that it was an injury. And he might be available. And Bales, of course, man, you talk about all the guys in this, especially the bullpen, a sub-1 ERA over like 30 innings this season. I mean, he's a dude. He gets outs for you, and he gets lots of them, and doesn't give up much. It's amazing Virginia's gotten this far. He was a finalist for the Stopper of the Year award. Virginia's gotten this far without literally their best reliever. I mean, I know that Schock gets all the acclaim because of the great interviews and everything else, and he's the closer. He gets the stats in terms of saves. But Bales is your dude. You haven't had anything from Brandon Neek since that ODU game. You didn't get much from Schock. In fact, after since the regional, you've got just that he got 1 out since the regional, and that was after giving up a 3-run homer in the game the other night. So, you're. That said, this is college baseball, and actually pro baseball plays this way a lot too in the postseason. The Nationals won a World Series 2 years ago by using Davey Martinez using his staff very creatively, using Steven Strasburg in relief, Patrick Corbin in relief, Max Scherzer a couple times in short relief. So, if you get you mentioned what do you get out of Vassell tonight? If he gives Virginia 4 good innings, great. If he's at a good pitch count, throw him back out there for the 5th. If he's still getting outs, you send him back out there for the 6th. But if he gives you 4, then you start setting up. Then you start saying, hey, Wyatt can give you a couple. Then what else do you get? Is Neek available? Does he give you 1 or 2? I mean, there's plenty of arms. Ortiz could be available. There's plenty of arms out there to get you through today. And you don't think about tomorrow because tomorrow doesn't come if you don't win today. But there's a lot of arms still out there. It's just can they get through it today and then still win tomorrow? I guess we'll worry about that tomorrow.
Yeah, I guess we're probably in pretty good shape as long as Vassell doesn't carry a no-hitter into the 8th inning, right?
Isn't that the strangest thing, man?
I mean, is that not UVA?
Well, and I even wrote a column breaking down that 8th inning. I didn't look. I don't like to look at the message boards of other websites in defeat, because even in victory, UVA fans are vicious. I mean, Brian O'Connor doesn't know how to coach. He doesn't know how to manage a pitching staff. Okay, whatever. You experts who are drinking Coors and eating Cheetos on your couch are better than Brian O'Connor. No better than Brian O'Connor, but. I thought it was worthy of an examination. That 8th inning could it have been done differently? And Scott, you and I were texting. I was also texting with my good buddy Jay from Richmond. He and I have been fellow UVA fans for many years. In fact, I should get us all together at some point because, except for the fact that we would talk for 10 hours and not a single thing would be about anything other than UVA sports.
And what is wrong with that?
There's nothing wrong with that, no. But I was having 2 separate text conversations with you and then with Jay. And we all came to the same conclusion: leave McGarry in there, but have someone warming up in the pen. And so, is it the case that O'Connor didn't manage the 8th inning right? I don't think so. I mean, I'll ask your opinion on this, but I'll break it down this way: McGarry was 85 pitches through 7 innings. He's still strong, and I think I wrote this in my story twice. That's 3-2 pitch was a strike. To the leadoff guy, that was a strike. I mean, that's a strike in any umpire's strike zone. He didn't call it a strike. He called it a ball. It was a strike. You get that first out. Every inning's different with the first out. He got the second guy out, so all of a sudden it's 2 outs, nobody on. The third batter then it's a different at bat, but it didn't work out that way. So he finally gives up the home run. He was trying to sneak a first pitch fastball over for a strike. He was took a couple miles per hour off of it and trying to get a strike. Got hit. So you take him out. The only quibble I would have would be going with Zach Messenger. Messenger had given up runs in 3 of his 4 relief appearances in the postseason. But as O'Connor said, he's been my guy. He's been my first guy of the bullpen for me all season long. And so, I maybe would have gone with someone else. I maybe even try to sneak Wyatt back out there for this short situation. And Messenger, I mean, he gave up 2 hits, but one of them was an infield single on a ball that should have been an out. And then the other was a liner to center field that, I mean, I don't want to cast aspersions on Chris Newell. He takes a better route to the ball. That's a fly ball. So, and then, Schock gives up a homer. I mean, he hung a slider. He obviously didn't have it. He got 1 out, and the out he got among the 4 batters he faced was a liner to the outfielder. So, but from O'Connor's standpoint, he went with a guy, Messenger, who's been his dude all season long. He went to a guy, Schock, who's been his guy all season long. They just didn't get out. So, I don't know. I mean, in 35 minutes, we went from celebrating perhaps the first no-hitter in College World Series play in 61 years to we're losing 6-4. What the hell just happened?
Yeah, and that's sort of the beauty of baseball, to be able to play armchair quarterback and second guess. But really, as fans, I mean, yeah, hindsight's 20/20, but who better knows the pitching staff than Brian O'Connor, who's been in that dugout, who has watched every single game, watched these kids in practice. I don't have a problem with what happened in the 8th inning because they were, hey, let's give Mississippi State a lot of credit. They're a great ball club. They could win the College World Series. They, we weren't playing VMI. That's right. They had 6 outs left. They had quality players. A lot of them going to be drafted here in the next week. and you have to play for the final out. I don't have a problem. It didn't work out. I just wonder, going back. So do you believe O'Connor, coach, would have, let's say that he didn't have a no-hitter. Let's say he had a 2-hitter and we had a 4-0 lead. Does he go to his bullpen then?
I think still with 80, I think the 85 pitches were more important than the no-hitter.
Right.
I really do.
So the pitch count, kind of dictated.
He in the game against Dallas Baptist, I want to say his pitch count was around, it wasn't quite 100, but it was around like 95, 98 or something like that coming in for the 8th inning of McGarry. And he had given up no runs. And I think you look at that and say, he's dealing. I mean, if you got a guy dealing and he's at a good pitch count, let's get one more inning and then we can go straight to our closer. And I mean, damn, I hate this is the thing. The beauty of baseball is, things can happen. The hard part of baseball is you can replay it a million times in your head. And that 3-2 pitch was a goddamn strike. It was a strike. I don't care what anybody freaking says about it. That was a strike. And if the umpire was squeezing the UVA pitchers, I'm a homer maybe, but he was squeezing the UVA pitchers a lot in those last 2 innings. That was a strike. And if McGarry gets the first out, he gets the first guy punching out. He might get through the 8th. He might be
the whole dynamics of the inning change.
He might be going out in the 9th with a no-hitter. I mean, as far as that goes, because the whole dynamics changes. We can't take it back now. That sucks about sports. You can because baseball especially, because in basketball, there's a play, the ball goes back up the court. I mean, this in baseball, it sits there for 45 seconds, and all you can think is, how was that not a strike? I hit rewind on my DVR. How does that not a strike? And so, I mean, that changes. So no, I think it's the 85 pitches, Scott. I really do. I don't think Brian O'Connor was playing for history, because I was even, here in my home booth. My wife Crystal has to hear me say this all the time. I'm saying I don't care about the no-hitter. I mean, I know you and I were texting, Jay and I were texting, no-hitter. Honestly, 4-0 is more important to me than no-hitter. We got to win this game and play on Friday night. So, and I think that's what O'Connor was thinking. If he can get one more inning out of him, 15 pitches or less, then we see what happens. If he's still up 4-0 in the 9th, then you send him back out in the 9th if he gives up even a walk at that stage. Because I think if he walks the first batter in the 9th, I don't care if he's throwing a no-hitter. We're going to our pin now, because we need to win this game. But I'm going to give him a chance at a no-hitter. But the 8th inning, I think it was just all about, let's see if we can not have to use our bullpen any more than we have to. And it just didn't work out.
Yeah, I'm telling you, after that 3-2 pitch was caught a ball, things were not real good in my house. In fact, I'm still looking for one of my 2 dogs.
And you live in woods. That might be a while. Yeah.
Yeah. But it does. But even before that, I mean, let's talk about a little bit before we move on to maybe talking about Texas, previewing Texas. You can't leave runners on second and third early in the game. I mean, a 4-0 lead could have just as easily been 6-0, 8-0. And then again, the dynamics of the game completely changed. So and you're playing a quality team like Mississippi State, you're just playing with fire, right?
Yeah, we knocked out the starting pitcher, Chris McLeod, another guy who's expected to hear his name called pretty early in the draft next month. He's a 2nd or 3rd round pick as well. And Virginia just hit the heck out of him. He got 4 guys out among 11 batters he faced. And 2 of the outs were bunts. They sacrificed in the first inning a guy over and got a run in on a single afterwards. Did the same thing in the second and before the barrage of doubles. And then I think it was the 3rd maybe, or it was either the 3rd or 4th, something similar. The leadoff guy gets on with a single. They bunt him over. The next guy gets a pop fly single, but because it was a pop fly single with 1 out, the runner at second wasn't able to leave too early because you had to see if the ball was going to be caught. And he only gets 3rd base. So you get the base hit with runners in scoring position. But then the next batter, who I believe was Devin Ortiz, hit into a double play. And, I mean, you had guys on base. A lot of credit was given to the Mississippi State bullpen until the 8th inning solo homer. They had gone, I think it was six solid innings, 6 1/3 solid innings without giving up a run. But they'd given up 7 hits and like 3 or 4 walks. You had base runners. You just hitting the double plays. You couldn't get the big hit in the right situation. And, that game was 4-0. And you look up, I mean, I know I was thinking about it. when it's 4-0 in the third and 4-0 in the fourth, and then then you're looking up, man, it's still 4-0 in the seventh, and they've had to use like 100 pitchers out here. They're a 2-run shot away from getting back in this damn thing. And yeah, that game should have been over. That game should have been 6-7. If it's 6 or 7-0, it doesn't matter. The eighth inning doesn't matter. I mean, they might not have life. You might have stepped on their neck. So yeah, I mean, that's what O'Connor had to say after the game. He said, credit to because even though their relievers had like 10 or 11 base runners, they pitched out of situations. He said he told his team, don't look at it like we lost this game. Look at it like they won the game. Right. They got the outs they needed on the mound, and they got the big hits they needed in the eighth inning. Sometimes you lose a game. He felt like, though, that it was more that Mississippi State won that game. And so we need to get back to the ballpark and work and now beat a Texas team that obviously is they were the number 2 national seed for a reason. They're a pretty good baseball team.
Texas, I would have rather been off today waiting for the winner of the Texas-Mississippi State game, but just the opportunity to play a program. I mean, Texas is it fair to say that Texas is the Alabama of college baseball or the Notre Dame of college baseball as far as being at the pinnacle of the sport?
Let's go more Notre Dame because they haven't got the championships like an Alabama of football, but they've got the expectations of a Notre Dame of football. And so I think that's a great analogy in that sense. And let me give you a quick breakdown of Texas, then we can talk more about it. Their starter tonight's a freshman lefty, Pete Hansen, and his numbers are good. And then when I dove inside, the numbers are even better. Hansen this season is, again, let me reiterate, freshman. 9-1 record, 1.79 ERA, a 0.96 WHIP, 199 opponent batting average. He went 2 innings in relief on Sunday in the loss to Mississippi State, 2 scoreless innings, 2 hits. He got the win in the regional clincher, and this will be his 14th start in 2021. He's not given up more than 3 runs in a start this season. He did that once. So this is a dude. He's going to give you now. He's not a guy who's going to pitch you necessarily in the 7th or 8th inning. He's more a 5 or 6 inning guy, but he's going to give you 5 or 6 really good innings and give up 1 or 2 runs most likely. I mean, he's that good. Their bullpen, they're not as deep as some bullpens, but the guys they use are really good. The pair of freshmen are their closers. Aaron Nixon, a 3-3 record, 2.35 ERA, a 1.04 WHIP, 34 strikeouts, 30 in 2/3 innings. And then a 6'5 freshman, Tanner Witt, who's got big stuff. He's got plus stuff all around. 5-0 record, 5 saves, 2.75 ERA, 73 strikeouts in 55 innings. They have 3 other guys that they'll use. Cole Quintana is a 6'5 sophomore righty, another big arm, 36 strikeouts, 35 innings, 1.29 ERA, a 0.80 WHIP. And then a couple of freshmen, a freshman and a senior, Lucas Gordon, Palmer Wenzel, who are more long guys. You could even see, all hands on deck analogy here. Scott, you mentioned Andrew Abbott might be available for an inning or 2 for Virginia. Their ace is a guy named Ty Madden, 7-5 record, 2.42 ERA. He started, of course, the game on Sunday against Mississippi State, the 2-1 loss. I wouldn't be surprised if things go squirrely if they don't use him in the middle innings. They've
got to have the same mentality that we do. Now, I was looking to a scouting report on Hansen and to just kind of get an idea of what we were facing.
Yeah.
And I guess that's why teams make it to the College World Series, because they're not all just one pitcher. They have depth. He has tremendous control. He has tremendous control. His walk to strikeout ratio is just astronomical.
Yeah, 21 walks in 85 innings, so less than 1 for 4 innings. So that's less than 2 per 9 innings. Yeah.
So I wonder if that maybe doesn't play to our strength, in that the mentality for our hitters is they're going to be up there swinging away, not taking pitches early in the count to just get down 0-1, 1-2, things like that. I'm wondering if that might actually help us, because we're going to be up there more aggressive, swinging at the first pitch type thing. So, I'm not intimidated by that stat.
Well, you saw Virginia do that against McLeod. Certainly. That's a great point, Scott. They did that against McLeod. I'm going to look up his stats real quick. He pitched 11 batters, and I'm trying to pull him up.
If you know the guy's going to throw strikes, then why are you going to sit there and look at a couple of them?
McLeod threw to 11 batters. He threw 35 pitches. So they were throwing a lot of first pitches there. And so, yeah, if you know he's going to throw strikes, yeah, if you see a good pitch early in the count, and that can work against you. You certainly see that from time to time. A guy who likes to get over with that first strike to get ahead in the count. If that's a good pitch, go ahead and swing at it. And Virginia definitely does that. And so, yeah, I mean that can play to Virginia's strength. I want to go through their lineup real quick, just because there's some interesting things to point out in their lineup. Like a lot of teams that Virginia's faced in this postseason, they're not quite like ODU or South Carolina or Dallas Baptist. Those teams are all around or over 100 homers this season. I believe Texas is somewhere between 65 and 70 homers as a team this season. They do have 5 guys in double digits in homers, so that's one thing. This is a team more, though, that just like they see pitches. They have 5 guys over 400 on base percentage. So they're a team that's going to make you work. So that's incumbent upon Vassell, who's had some control issues lately. You got to be careful about that. The guy I would watch for of all guys, I mean, they've got, in fact, he does have 10 homers. Mike Antico, the center fielder, 40 stolen bases this year. You don't see a lot of guys anywhere at any level of baseball attempting that anywhere close to that many stolen bases. So he's got 40 steals and 44 attempts. And then their number 2 guy, Eric Kennedy, 18 steals and 22 attempts. So, and then they've got boppers. Then they've got, other guys who have 10 plus homers. So, and Antico especially, you got to work, so don't lead off the game with a walk of Antico, because if you do that, that first inning is going to take 30 minutes because you're going to be throwing to first a lot. There's going to be a lot of stalls when you're in your set position. And so, get that first guy out and then, really be around the zone because these guys will take a lot of pitches and make you work.
Yeah. And you talked about their hitting. They are similar to UVA. And if you look at their, I was looking at their ballpark, their home field, very similar dimensions to TD Ameritrade Park as well as Davenport Field. Left field 340 at Texas's stadium, 332 at UVA, 335 at TD Ameripark. The power alleys are almost exactly the same. So they seem to be built offensively pretty much the same way that Virginia is. So, and they're playing in a ballpark that plays pretty much like Davenport Field. So, I think these teams are comfortable playing their style of baseball in this venue.
Yeah, unlike Tennessee, which, when we talked with Paul Maneri, the LSU coach last week, he was talking about how they're a team built for their park. I called it in my column a wiffle ball field when I looked at the dimensions of that field. And they hit a lot of home runs, but when the dimensions are, when left field line is 320 and then it's 340 at TD Ameritrade, and when it's 380 at center field in your park and it's 405 in TD Ameritrade, there's a lot of fly ball outs, and they hit a lot of fly ball outs in that game against Virginia in the opener on Sunday. These two teams, it's almost like they're playing in their home field just with a few more people watching because there's 25,000 people in Omaha. I've not looked at the weather forecast for tonight. The wind changes, as we know. We saw that even during the game Tuesday night. The wind was shifting a little bit. That home run off the bat of Newell in the 8th inning, that was a fly ball. I don't know how that got out there. That just kept carrying, and the wind kind of carried it out and knocked down a couple other ones that would have been home runs somewhere else. But I think it's a great point, Scott, because you were even making a point. I want you to tell this story, but you're telling me a story about sitting with some scouts one time about and how the UVA guys are better situated to play in these kind of situations because of the fact they play in Davenport Field. Do you remember that story you told me about?
Yes. Yes. Start me off. I'm getting old.
You were telling me, I can't think of who the team we were playing when you sat behind. You happened to be sitting behind, but basically they were a team trying to hit home runs, and the Virginia team, knowing that it's Davenport's hard to hit home runs in, they're more likely to take pitches, not swing.
Work the pitching count up, work the kid. Better situated for a big ballpark than that they knew how to work the count early, work the pitch count up on the starting pitcher. And eventually get into the visiting team's bullpen much quicker. So could be a situation similar to what we're going to, but I don't think we're going to be sitting there looking at a lot of pitches tonight. I think that with Hanson's ability to control the strike zone, and his primary pitches seems to be the fastball, I think we're going to be up there hacking away.
Well, so not take away the taking pitches part of it. Still, I think what happens to a lot of college baseball teams, it's just like in the major leagues. A lot of, over the years, teams have made decisions to move their fences in or move their home plate out, whichever the case may be, to shorten the field. And you see a lot of uppercut swings. The TD Ameritrade, just like these two teams' home parks, does not play well to teams that try to hit home runs a lot. And so, even take the equation out of the taking pitches, you're trying to put the ball in play more. And that's a lost art in this game, especially at the major league level these days. The approach of let's get guys on base, let's bunt them over. You saw Virginia do that again successfully Tuesday night, even though, they eventually lost the game. They were moving runners over, getting them in. This Texas team steals bases like there's no tomorrow. As far as that goes, two guys at the top of their lineup with combined 58 steals. And so, the game tonight should be, if you're a baseball purist, the game tonight should be a pretty fun game to watch. You're going to see a lot of guys getting on base, guys being moved over, guys stealing, a lot of interplay between pitcher, catcher, first base, second base, shortstop in terms of who's covering and that kind of thing. You're going to see, like, to a degree, 1980s kind of baseball. And then there's the added aspect of, for these teams, every game is game 7 until they get to the championship series, if they get that far. So you're going to see guys warming up in the bullpen in the second inning. You're going to see, it's going to be that kind of game where you're going to see all the stops taken out by both coaches, by both teams. And I got to think, Scott, Texas has faced one of these kind of games. They won their regional. They won their super regional. They swept through. They were 5-0 coming into this. They lost their first game in Mississippi State. They've played one elimination game. This is Virginia's 7th. And really, since April 1st, they've been pretty much playing elimination games. They didn't win every game after April 1st, but they knew going into each day after April 1st, they needed to win a game. And so, I don't know. I like a team that's had to play that kind of baseball for a long period of time because it's second nature to them now. For Texas, this is game 2 of their whole season where they've had do or die. I don't know how prepared they are compared to the Virginia team.
So are we at the point of our podcast that we can give our predictions?
I think so. Yeah. We're in the last 5 minutes or so. So let's go ahead and start thinking this through.
All right. Well, I'll start. So, I think, as I said earlier, hey, we got them right where we want them. We're in a familiar situation. We're in an elimination game, right?
Yeah.
Maybe the valid school of thought is that we need to have our backs against the wall in order to play our best baseball. I'm not certain if that's really true because I think we played a heck of a game Sunday against Tennessee. But from people looking at the team right now, I think it would probably be maybe some people think that our pitching staff, that we're running on fumes right now, that we're just after that 8th inning against Mississippi State, the gas tank might be a little empty. I'm not sure, but I'm not ready to concede that our season's ready to come to an end. I think there's some magic left, and I see us upsetting Texas tonight and moving on.
My blueprint for this is I'm looking through the pitching staff and I'm just looking up and down the roster here. Vassell needs to give you 5. If he gets knocked out early, I'm not sure. So he needs to give you 5. I think that, when I look at the other availables, and I probably need to write this column. So those who are listening to this podcast, before you read the column I'm going to write soon, you're getting the sneak preview here. Because I'm thinking out loud about what I'm going to write. So Vassell gives you 5. Devin Ortiz is available, I would say, to give you an inning or two. I loved what Ortiz did in that one game against ODU. 94-mile-an-hour fastball, a slider at 88, a changeup, and a curve. What the hell? That guy's he only threw 2 innings this year. That's not a bad guy to have you in an emergency situation like that. But he can give you an inning or two. Witten didn't throw a lot the other night. He can give you maybe an inning or two, perhaps. I don't think, we had Nate Savino. He threw a few pitches in the 8th inning. He didn't get the first guy out, but it was a shift thing. He can give you an inning or two. I don't know the status of Neek. He was lights out against ODU. If he's available, obviously he gives you an inning or two. I mean, I'm starting to give you all the guys who can give you an inning or two. Matt Wyatt's got to be available for an inning or two. Messenger didn't throw a lot of pitches the other night. He's available for an inning or two. So I'm adding them all up here. Maybe Vassell doesn't need to give you 5. If he can give you 4 good innings, and then you can start piecing it together with those other guys, that's kind of where things go from a pitching standpoint. And then, Scott, I love your approach. This guy, because he's a control pitcher, use the same approach hitting-wise that you used against Christian McLeod on Tuesday night. Don't wait until it's 2-2 to swing at a changeup low and away. Get the first pitch you see that's a good pitch, you can zone up, try to put, get a good swing on it, square it up, get on the board early, see if you can get in their bullpen early. As I pointed out, the one thing about their bullpen, if Virginia can get in their bullpen early, and when I say early, 3rd or 4th inning, they've got arms, but I don't know that they have long arms. They've got guys who can give you an inning and be lights down for that inning. If this game gets, if their starting pitcher gives them 6 innings and it's a tie game or a 1-run game either way, the advantage might be Texas. Even if they're down a run, it might be advantage Texas because they've got 1 inning shutdown guys probably for the last 3 or 4 innings. But if Virginia can have a working margin in the middle innings, that's the way to go. So. I'm not sure if I'm going to predict a outcome in terms of, the orange and blue glasses that I tend to wear tell me I want to watch a game tomorrow night because I don't want this to end. It's been so much fun. But that, to me, that's how this game has to go for Virginia to win. They've got to get to their starter relatively early, get him knocked out relatively early, make Texas panic early and get rid of their guy. And then make them have to give, get a couple of long relief innings from guys who don't normally get in games of this kind of nature for them. And then our guys can just start eating up some innings ourselves. So Vassell needs to be good. The lineup needs to be aggressive. And then let's see if we can get the ball in the hands of some of our flamethrowers late and win this game.
Yeah. This Texas is a great team, but they're not Mississippi State.
No, and the other part of that game plan is keep that 40 stolen base guy.
You got to keep him off base.
Because even if all he does is walk, that changes the nature of an inning. If he's out there on the base paths, everything slows down to a crawl. The middle infield's preoccupied with him. The pitcher is, first base is, catcher is, and then that's what makes their lineup great. Fortunately, you look at his numbers. So he's got 40 steals, but he's not. Let's see. Well, actually, I'm wrong. His batting average is 271. His on base is 440. So God bless. He walks a lot.
Well, and to quote the great Billy Bean, I don't care how he gets on base.
That's right. 440 on base.
He gets on base.
There are, let's see, in their lineup, there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 guys with better batting averages. He leads them in on base. So, and that's all that matters. And he gets on base. He steals base. He also has 10 home runs. You got to be careful with this guy. He's either going to steal a base or hit a home run. He's got 10 dingers. So, but get Antico out. So here, adjusting the game plan. Get Antico out, and then Vassell's got to be around the plate, and then because they'll work you. They obviously with 5 guys with 400 plus on base, they will work you. So he's got to be around the plate. Give us 4. We're not asking for 8 innings. You take a no hitter in the 8th inning. We don't need that. Just give us 4 good innings, and give us a chance at a lead, and then make them throw a couple of guys mid innings that they're not used to throwing. Hit those guys, and then we've got some arms at the back that if we can get at least 4 innings out of Vassell, we can win this game.
Chris, we don't watch as many baseball games alongside one another as we do football or certainly basketball, which is probably a good thing.
Oh yeah.
Because I'm the type of irrational UVA fan that if Antico gets a walk or a hit to lead off the game, I'm already out on the ledge ready to jump at the first. It would almost be like if we lose the jump ball in basketball.
You declared the clock striking midnight Tuesday night. I had to say, Scott, one, it was in the 8th inning you declared the clock striking midnight. I had to say, one, we've got 2 innings to hit in this game. And even if we lose this game, there's a whole nother game to play.
My wife will tell you that I am bad in basketball, watching one on TV. Reasonably mild-mannered for football, but baseball is just, I go to a different level.
Baseball's hard, and we might agree on this part of it, because in basketball, I said this a little earlier, in basketball, all right, a guy makes a shot, but the ball's coming back up the court. So you don't have a lot of time to dwell on that shot.
You don't have the time, right.
Because there's always the next play. In baseball, there's 30 seconds, 45 seconds between pitches. And you can just dwell on that pitch or that play. Like if there's a guy makes a boneheaded play or whatever, you dwell on that forever. And of course, the ebb and flow of a baseball game, there might be a whole inning where you're just dwelling on something because if it's a 1, 2, 3 inning. And then you have the 3 minutes between commercials and with between innings or whatever else.
I mean, I was walking out on my deck after leaving runners at second and third early in the game with a 4-0 lead. And I was scattering the birds in all different directions with just my tirade because I felt like we should have scored more. And as it turns out, I was justifiable in having those tirades because it probably cost us the ball game that we didn't have a bigger lead.
I've got an 80-inch TV in my living room, but I watch this game in my office because I've got a setup there with my computer, stand-up computer, with the stats playing up there, and I've got but I'll walk around that room. And I walked almost a mile, not in the whole game. I didn't look down until the 7th inning. I walked almost a mile between the 7th and 9th innings, just pacing in my room, just pacing in my office. That's healthy, I guess. At least I'm not sitting there taking it all in. But no, baseball is a different beast. Baseball is one that you can definitely think way too much about that called strike 3 that wasn't, and how we should be playing tomorrow night, not tonight. And so, no, if we sat beside each other, one, I mean, at least our wives would have a free night. That would probably be good for them.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, there would need to be several sheriff's deputies probably employed to keep us from each other, much less from if there happened to be anyone in the vicinity who was trying to tell us how great Texas was. I'd feel sorry for that person.
And I have this pent-up energy because my other team of passion is the Orioles, and they are going out of their way to lose games. So there's really not any reason to be angry with them. So all of my energy is focused right now on UVA baseball. So you can just imagine if the kid gets a leadoff, if he gets on base tonight, if the Texas leadoff hitter gets on base in the 1st inning, it's going to be bad. I'm warning people. Thankfully, my wife's out of town tonight, so it's just me and two dogs that don't deserve this.
2 dogs with PTSD already.
Yes.
Well, so we're 8 hours as we're finishing up this recording of this podcast from the first pitch. And somehow Scott and I have to get through these next 8 hours, but we will. Look to the Augusta Free Press website. I've got a story about Griff McGarry. There's probably one coming about how this game needs to go for Virginia to win. In fact, that's going to be the next thing I'll work on after I get this podcast produced. And then look to our site tonight for post-game coverage, hopefully happy post-game coverage. Also go to jerryratcliffe.com. Jerry will have, I'm sure, a preview story or 2 today, and then post-game tonight as well. So for Scott German, for our friend Jerry Ratcliffe, and for myself, Chris Graham, signing off. Everyone have a great day.